Welcome to a game between Dregs, here in blue, starting hovercraft. And here you have SentinelComanche, starting with rovers. And it was requested by SentinelComanche. Yes. So you can see here, he starts off with making some scorchers, while Dregs is basically just making one dagger for scouting and one quill to expand. SentinelComanche is not going to have his commander on high priority, so he's going to divide his resources between the building of the... He gets the first scout there by the dagger, nice. So yeah, he's going to divide his resources between his commander and his metal and his commander, yeah. So this is kind of an aggressive start. He's investing like 390 metal in offensive units, and Dregs is gonna have to respond. He's respond by making two Lotus turrets here. Yeah, and he also has his commander at home and some more daggers here, so he's kind of defensive. And it looks like, I'm not sure what SentinelComanche is scouting out, maybe scouting for some expansion. Usually there's no expansion like here. It's also easy to scout with darts, they can easily scout this fast. And now he made some more expansion here. So yeah, now he's expanded pretty safely. This is like he's putting pressure on Dregs, and that's forcing Dregs to make defense because he hadn't a lot of mobile units. And yeah, it's daggers against Scorchers. This can be kind of risky. Your micro has to be good if you want to counter Scorchers with daggers. Yeah. So yeah. So for daggers, they can't quite one-shot a Scorcher. You need 5. Then you can start one-shotting Scorchers. But see there, yeah, he damaged quite a bit, 200 damage there. And he goes in and gets another shot off, not too much damage. And the Bolas joins the group as well. But yeah, Scorchers deal less damage at max range. So if you chase after the Scorchers, you're gonna go into the mid projectiles, and that's bad because then you're basically taking extra damage. While if the Scorchers are trying to chase something, their projectiles are basically gonna run out and do no damage because yeah, they're trying to catch up with the unit. So yeah, chasing units can be tricky with Scorchers, while chasing Scorchers is pretty bad. Like you don't want to chase Scorcher with any other raider basically. So here we can see they're going for the commander, but he has some defense, and yeah, he's gonna retreat. He has loses one Scorcher, not a biggie. Yeah, going against this army would not have been a good choice, I think. Yeah, but they're pretty even on expansion, and they're both balancing their economies pretty well. At this point, I think you should put your commander. Oh, he's gonna go in here. He gets one Bolas, and he gets another Bolas. But he loses quite a bit of Scorchers. Yeah, and he doesn't quite finish off anything else, so... not a very worthy trade. Like, at this point you wanna put your commanders and on high priority, so you expand even faster. Like, that should be your priority now, increasing your income. You don't want to be like your commander, and these cons are going to waste a lot of time just going between the mexes, so you don't want to waste even more time having to stall. And here comes the first scalpel. Can be a bit tricky to deal with for vehicles. And yeah, Dregs is playing pretty well here, like he's overwhelming. But it's still easy to lose quite a bit of dagger in such situations. Like, they're kind of weak, so you have to like outmaneuver the opponent if you want to use daggers effectively against like slashers and such, against fencers I mean. Yeah, so you can look at the value killed here. Yeah, you got a bit behind in the first engagement with the Scorches. So yeah, but not too much. Yeah. You want to be careful as well when you're engaging in scalpels, not send units one by one. And at this point you have some idle cons, but your command is still expanding, so that's pretty good. So yeah. Fencers against scalpels work alright, as long as you have a little more value of fencers. It's pretty decent actually. So at this point you might even want to be pushing, like, it depends if you know he just has this, you can push against this, it's pretty even. Like, putting pressure on this, I guess he has one picket there, but yeah. That's the thing, if you have, yeah. Dregs is playing pretty defensively here, like he's gonna make 2 Lotus turret here, and a Solar Fortress walls, and the Stinger as well, so that's gonna be a lot of defense here. If you, like, you're still pretty even on total value, so if you could exploit that, you're a bit, yeah, like, advancing. Yeah, at this point it's like, yeah, you don't want to go in against this Monet Bolas, so yeah, it's hard to know. You have to, like, check the radar to try and know if their Bolas are faster moving, if they're daggers, or if they're scalpels. Like, you want to know that before you send in your fencers. So you're gonna start poking here. But at this point you should probably just retreat. You have the Ripper there that might do damage, but the mace get a good, the scalpel get a good hit there, and damage a lot of units. And then halberds come out as well. Yeah. At this point I think you should be trying to expand more aggressively across the map. And here comes 3 Scorch against Commander. It jumps away, then it's safe. And you find this, at this point you should know there's a Stinger here. And the Stinger, like, it's pretty hard to deal with for Rubers. Like, you can use Badgers or Impalers, but it's not something you want to have to do. Yeah. So here come 2 Scalpels again. Oh, and you seem to lose a Ripper there, kinda unnecessary. I'm gonna keep those alive. Yeah, and at this point, I guess fencers are kind of bad, because, yeah, it's a thing, if you make too many fencers, the hover plate can just switch to halberds. Yeah. And like, building a Stinger, it's pretty safe against Rubers. So it's not until they have, like, lances, it's not going to be a problem. But yeah, you have lots of room, like the enemy hasn't made a lot. You have maneuverable units here, and the enemy doesn't have that many maneuverable units, so you should be expanding here, securing these mexes. These are 3 mexes that you could probably secure pretty easily. You should, like, just send 1 con there and go there. Yeah. And skirmishing around the edges like this can be pretty good until the scalpels come, but once the scalpel comes you have to be careful and try to retreat. Oh, and this, yeah, you should, but so you should also be careful with how you send forward the Rippers. Like, yeah, ow. The scalpels, you want to make sure you either kill them or you don't ever get in the range of them. Doing half measure like this is not gonna do a lot in that sense. Yeah. So far your engagement hasn't been stellar, but you're still, at this point you're out ecoing your opponent by a little bit. Like, yeah. I guess the last engagement was decent. And you can see here that Dregs has opted to go for a lance, and his first shot he kills 2 badgers. That's a pretty good, nice for him. And you're gonna overrun the defenses here, and yeah, that's better. Like, at this point you could just go in and kill the scalpels. You should kill the scalpels as fast as possible before they reload. And you're also sending your command. That's pretty good help. Helps out a lot. And Dregs is gonna be greedy, he's gonna try to target your commander. But luckily for you, he has his unit on fire at radar dots, so it's gonna miss the commander because, yeah, it's not shooting at the right position. And you're even gonna go for it, and that was, yeah, like there wasn't that much defense, so that was a good, nice for you to actually get that lance kill there. Yeah. So yeah, I think it's a bit tricky to play against lances. Like, you either want to go in and try to kill them, or you want to like spam like lots of badgers so you can prevent them. At this point, you also like let the enemy commander just walk here with minimal defenses. Pushing up like 5 or 6 Scorchers is gonna threaten this position heavily. So you shouldn't just have let him gotten this area free. Like, a radar here would have contested this area. And at this point, badgers are good against this against scalpels. Like, it messes a lot with targeting for scalpels. But yeah, he's gonna. You have your like Ripper a little bit out of position here, so you loses your fencer. Don't be too afraid of like you don't. Luckily for you, Dregs is like bunching up quite a bit here, so you get some decent trades here. Yeah. And at this point, you have killed like the lances, and that's good for you. So you have been making some good trades here. But still, you have to be. You're still giving him this area basically for free. So yeah, at this point your trades up here are decent, like you prevented these lances, you kill them, but you can't against mace. You have to be really careful how you handle mace as well. Like, yeah, and you also have to watch your AI so your kiting air doesn't get locked into these like paths into these. Like, you want to keep a bit more track of them so they don't get like cornered and stuff like that. So yeah, and at this point you have too few Scorchers and you're gonna retreat, but yeah, like getting this last way is kind of like, it's kind of difficult. And at this point you're gonna send these Scorchers. Like, these Scorchers would be perfect to raid out this area. They could probably get all of this, and like threaten the commander. And Dregs is gonna see this and he's gonna jump into the water. That's the thing you can do. You can just jump it into water. Yeah. But then you're gonna do this, which I really don't agree with. Like, these are... You're attacking with, how many was that? 6 Scorchers? That's just not enough against this defense. Yeah, and these solar collectors was masterfully placed, so they obstructed these units. So yeah, working this area would have been much better instead with all your Scorchers. Instead you divided them into 2 groups and lost them both. Yeah, and you're still like, yeah, these. So if you had gone for like these, you knew this was a position, you would have gone here with all your things, and then also like pushing the commander with fencers. Fencers are good, you can just push against basically Lotus turret. That was the only thing you had here at that point. But you didn't have radar, so you didn't really know how many turrets he had built in this area. Like, yeah, having a radar is great. Now you know nothing about how much defense he's making here. And if we look at the trades, they're pretty even still, so they're not doing too bad. Like, the badgers are doing work, but at this point you should also think Scorchers, they're not gonna do much against maces and scalpels, so I'm not sure what you're keeping to produce Scorchers against just pure scalpels and bolas. Like, you might, if you have a good maneuvering and outmaneuver the position, like attack when there's few units there, yeah, you can get some decent trades with Scorchers. But gets a line of units like this with defense behind, you're just not gonna get a good, like, yeah, a good engagement. So the thing is with lances, they're not very good counters to badgers in general. Like, if the badgers are shooting at max range against the enemy, they're not gonna have like line of sight to them, and your lance can basically not hit them. Like, look at this lance, it's gonna miss because it still has radar dots shooting at radar dot, and you're gonna try to dive this lance, but that's not really gonna work. And yeah. So your tactics is a bit like you're making these slashes to push the enemy, but then you're also you're pushing the enemy, but you're also taking a lot of damage. Like the fencers can't really support it, and now you're gonna have to leave the fencers behind, and they're gonna die. They can't really keep up with these maneuvers in that sense. It feels like you're a bit, you could say, distracted. Imagine having like just 5 more badgers in this position. They would be raining hell on the enemy, and he wouldn't be able to get a good like shot on them. So like yeah, having just 5 more badgers would do so much work. If you just keep them in mile and make sure they don't get stuck in terrain, they're gonna be alive forever basically. Like they're gonna be at max range, they're not really gonna be spotted by anything, so lances can't really shoot them, and they're gonna be laying down these mines that are gonna distract these scalpels. Yeah, they're great, really. Yes, having 5 more would be so good for you. Then you can like push on with all the other units in the same way you do right now. And Dregs even opted to go for a ogre and a tank factor. I'm not exactly sure why. I mean, these are all decent units to deal with that. And artillery doesn't really need either, so because they have slants. So Lance is pretty good artillery. Yeah. And at this point, like, you have no radar, so you're sending out these units to die. You lost a Raven there. If you had a radar, you would know, oh, that's a lot of defense. I'm not gonna send my unit there. And you're doing this just to kill metal extractors, and that's a decent target. But really, you want to kill the commander. Like, you went into this expensive air switch. Like, imagine you're paying 300 for every mech you kill here, and then you have also spent 800 for this factory. And now you're losing even more. Like, yeah, maybe you got 1 ogre that was low health, but yeah. It's hard to make good trades with ravens like this. Like, maybe if you knew where the commander is, if you had the radar here, you would see, oh, he's over here. And then you can just make 5. How many do you need to kill the commander? Yeah, 5 is enough. You just make 5 and then you go around and then you kill it while it's even out of position of these defenses. And you're still gonna try to go into ogres. I mean, why do you try to engage ogres head on like this? Like, at this point you might even ask yourself, why are you even building Scorchers? They're one of the like least useful units in this situation. The enemy has some Lotus turrets, they have Scalpels. Yeah, you're pushing the enemy back a tiny bit, but you're not threatening in this area. You're not, yeah. So yeah, now you have some more. And you also went for Lico. And this Lico can do some work. Like, you can't really... Flying over ogres is not a thing I would recommend, so I think it's the right choice to go in like this. Even if you potentially could get the slants, it's very risky to go above ogres. They might get like several... like 1 ogre can easily get like 1,000... like 500 damage, and 2 of them like 1,000 damage, and maybe... yeah, it's just risky. Yeah, and you see this, like the fencers are kinda annoying these. And then you set them to attack the lands, they're a bit close, I think. Yeah, but you see these badgers are making work. But now they're also facing even more artillery. So, like, that's the thing. I guess emissaries are kind of better than lances for countering badgers. Yeah. And I guess this is a distraction. But you get a very good shot off with this Lico here, like you're killing 1 Minotaur and 2 ogres. That was a nice hit. But you're still attacking this position? I don't get it. You have scouted this position several times. You have sacrificed like 10 Scorcher to this position. That's just unnecessary. Like in this, like Stardust here. Make a radar here. It's really good to have a radar here. Like, you can see how much... You can guess that these positions are turrets. And if you can make an owl, like, yeah, you're gonna know exactly what he got there. Also, an impaler is a good choice, like placing an impaler here with the radar or an owl, and you're just gonna snipe all these defenses. And the enemy is not really gonna have much to threaten this because you hold the middle. So yeah. And you're gonna maybe you get the Stinger this time? But will you get the Commander? Yeah, I guess you get the Commander. It's still, I mean, that's kinda worth it. But in your position, you're starting to fall really far behind now. Like, your trades hasn't been good, basically. Yeah, like, your trades hasn't been good, and you let the enemy get all this expansion. Yeah. Like, one Lico is not gonna be able to pay off this, especially as the enemy is getting more and more A. But yeah, your Scorchers has just been sacrificial lambs, basically. Yeah, like, the Ravens have really not paid off, and the Lico, yeah, it's starting to pay off, but Licos take a while to pay off. So yeah. So if you look at the metal produced, like, Dregs is getting ahead, you have been leaving all this reclaim in this area here. And you're still producing Scorchers and like sending them in against Ogres and stuff. I don't really get... Having a few Scorchers ready is always nice. Yeah, and now you're gonna attack even more into these defenses that you don't even have radar on. It's like... I don't get it. This is just suicide. You get one picket and lose like 5 Scorchers. Here you get a nice hit on these Velders, like you kill like 6 Velders. So yeah, Licos can do work, given time. But basically the Lico is all of the damage you're doing at this point. But yeah, it's not enough at this point, it's far too... At this point it's just over. Having this been this far behind in value is like, yeah, not good. Yeah, those are some low health Minotaurs. Yeah, and at this point, yeah, Badger is not gonna work against emissaries. And you're choosing to scout with... I don't really see why I would need to scout with Swift. You made like 3 Swifts. An Owl is cheaper. Like, if you just micro, you're making 4 Swifts? Why are you making so many Swifts? Like, make 1 Owl. It's cost 2 and a little more than 2 Swifts. And then you just can, like, you don't need to go above the enemy defense, you can go like this. Turn like that. And then you see, oh, they have defenses there. Then you could potentially go like this all around. And like, yeah, you probably don't want to fly above with Stardust. You can kind of fly on the edge here, but yeah, with 1 Owl you would have scouted all of the enemy base with a bit of micro. Instead you're gonna make like 5 Swifts, which costs, what's that, 700? You could have gotten 2 Owls for that. That's just... That's just not necessary, I think. An Owl is really good, actually. Also, the thing about the radar jammer aspect of the Owl, just placing an Owl in the front and you have a huge radar jammer, which makes it a bit more difficult for like emissaries to fire at your units. It's also making it harder for the enemy to guess what you got. Yeah, and here with the help of a... Yeah, you have an impaler here. You built this specific impaler and it just started doing work, but then you're also sending all this Scorcher into these defenses. Like, you get the defenses, but it's not worth it. Like, yeah, it's the wrong call. Like, having built, if you had built this impaler and a radar much earlier, You would have been fine just pelting away at all these defense from afar. Yeah. But yeah, you kept your commander alive through all this. But that's mostly thanks to Dregs not putting his lance notified radar odds. Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, you give up here at this point. And if we check here, yeah, like you were pretty even on metal produced most of the game. You were like a bit behind. But yeah, that in combination with like a losing more than an enemy, like you were sacrificing Scorcher all the game. So that made you get pretty far behind. Like at some point, yeah, you hadn't like pushed up against a corner and you were pretty even. But then you let him get this expansion for free basically. Like imagine having one radar here. You would see the commander, the unit coming, starting to build stuff. Just on the like the radar dots, the movement speed, you can see it's not a Mason and it's a commander. And then you can like send like 5 Scorchers. Either you are gonna get the commander or you're gonna force the commander to retreat or build like Lotus turrets or reinforce. That's like since you had a Stinger here, it would have been good because yeah, you can the enemy can pounce, like they can try to go against the Stinger, but the Stinger is a pretty good position here, right in the middle here. So if you just go like this, have your army here, and just go with like 5 Scorchers down here, and you see the commander on the radar, yeah, that's good. Okay, so and also like okay, either you threaten the commander so it goes back just by sending the Scorcher, or it's gonna start building defenses like Lotus turrets. Either if it's just one, you can probably dive the commander and kill it, or if it's like building, yeah, just send out like 2-3 fencers, and they're just gonna pelt away at the commander. And yeah, like having 2-3 fencers here, and then having like just 5 Scorchers ready here is gonna prevent the commander from like pushing into this area. He would have to divert forces basically all the way from here, while you're also having forces here and having all these badgers pouncing at him here. So yeah, that's a thing. Don't give away free expansions like this. Like, just have a radar here and you won't let them fortify this position. And also, if you're in this position, like, you could place an Impaler here. Like, it's pretty good. You can reach here, 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 here with the Impaler, basically. You can easily get all this, and it can also work. Like, it might be a bit hard if the enemy is trying to dive him, so putting it here could be a bit risky, but it's still pretty good. And it's like the Badgers, they're a pretty big nuisance for like Scalpels and stuff like that. So either you want to 3, I guess it's annoyed the Scalpels, so if you want to counter Scalpels, fine. But if you want a more, you maybe want some more if you want to be able to break through. So yeah, it depends. But I guess you also want to watch out for halberds, like rippers in that sense. They can be a backfire on you, like just by putting just by putting halberds on hold fire, you can just place your halberds right next to like the fencers and rippers, and the rippers are gonna tear it apart. So yeah, it's something you have to care for. Like, I would recommend just always having 5 to 10 Scorchers ready in this situation is good, instead of just sending wave after wave into like suiciding. Like you got the first lances. I think you can even see. Can you see it clear where you get the lances? Like, yeah, I think these were the lancer kills here. So those were some good trades you made when you got the lancers. But other than that, you need to like, yeah, just having 2 groups of Scorchers on standby, preventing the enemy from expanding, and in conjunction with fences and badges, it's a good combo. Probably even better if the enemy knows how to use halberds on hold fire, which Dregs do. Yeah, it's probably even better than using mixing and rippers in this position. Scorchers can hold fine against most stuff, like, yeah. So yeah. Also consider your air switch, like paying 300, like you could have made an impaler for 700. That would have been less than the cost of the factory and could have done the same thing. Like you can put it here, it can destroy all these mexes and defenses. You can put it here, it can also destroy mexes. Like an impaler would have done exactly the same thing that you did with the ravens. The Lico, yeah, I don't like going Lico personally because it takes too long to pay off, but it paid off big time in this game. But you could have just skipped the ravens basically. They were just a drain on you. Yeah, those are my tips. So good luck and have fun.